excited because we're going to do a van tour today. We're going to go in and out of this van and show everybody what we're up to. So let's take a look around. I just thought I'd swing in here. We got our 2019 third generation Sprinter van with a 170 wheelbase. It's got a V6 turbo diesel underneath the hood, 3 liters, and it scoots, let me tell you. And it gets great gas mileage, and it's got the longevity of the Mercedes diesel engine in it, which I was talking to the service department head the other day when we picked the vehicle up, and he said they're starting to see some of the Sprinters showing up for service that have over 500,000 miles on them and they're still running. So that's pretty exciting because most gas engines you're going to be lucky to get 250, 300,000 miles, and they don't get near the miles per gallon that this thing does.
How new was it, Kevin?
It had 11 miles on it. So that's pretty new. Maybe one test drive before we got it. And I don't know if you remember me telling you on the video before, but we bought this thing over the telephone. We didn't even see it until after we had bought it. And we went and flew across the country, across the state rather, from the west side to the east side, and picked it up and drove it back across the state to where we live here at the beach. So just a little bit of walk around here and show you the inside and outside, and just a little bit of why we picked this up. Again, the durability and longevity of this vehicle is pretty legendary, and you know, it looks pretty darn good, I think. I looked at well, I took a Nisa one day and we drove around and we looked at pretty much every van from every company that makes a van, and did a lot of comparison shopping before we chose this vehicle. The really cool thing is it's the longest one of the vans that they make in the industry by a long shot. There's actually 14 feet of space behind the seats to the back doors. The other cool thing is I'm 6'3", and I can stand up in it. That's a big deal. I'm happy to be able to stand up and move around. We looked at regular old, you know, low top vans and mid-size heights and all kinds of things in our feasibility study, and this one had the most headroom and the longest wheelbase, or an inside cargo space, if you will, of any other manufacturer. Nobody else is making a diesel, which was something we really liked because of the longevity of the engine and the gas mileage you get out of it. So that was a big deal to us. And it's really wide, but it's not, I mean, the ProMaster's a little wider, but it doesn't get as long. So that was kind of a deal breaker for us with those vans and their gas engine. So we didn't really like those. Do you want to step up in here, or how do you want to?
Let's come out and finish looking at the inside, and we'll look down the barn doors. It'll be easier for the camera.
Okay, so right now it has this bulkhead because this was designed as a cargo vehicle. So there's a metal bulkhead right here that separates the driver's compartment from the back of the van, because if you were carrying freight and so forth, and that would protect you if things shifted around if you were driving and perhaps, you know, maybe had to hit the brakes or something. So that's going to come out because we want to be able to get in and out of the seats without getting in and out of the vehicle. That was a big deal for us too. So this is just bolted on, and we're just going to remove the bolts and take this out, and then we'll have a completely free reign in and out from one end to the other. So there's a few more square feet up here, but this area right here is 6 feet by 14 feet, which is about 84 square feet, which is a pretty good size amount of room. And we're going to be able to get a kitchen, a bath, a bed, some lounging space. What else? Heating and air conditioning.
Garage.
A garage for our equipment.
Stove.
Refrigerator and stove. So we're going to have everything in here you'd have, you know, in a tiny house and or an RV for that matter, in a you know, a nice package that's going to allow us to go where we want to go, really. I mean, I've been following some other van lifers, so that's a term you're going to be hearing a lot. We're van lifers now. And here's van life. Van life. LV. High sign, kind of like Star Trek or something like that. So we're still playing around with the design, but we're kind of getting, I mean, we got a lot of elements that we're wanting to include in this, and so we're just going to do a little bit of, you know, study inside here. We'll do some mock-ups and some maybe tape out the spaces, and we'll show you what we're going to do with that. We'll kind of talk about our line of reasoning as to what we're going to do here. But we're going to start the project pretty quick. We got some materials already on order that should be delivered in the next week.
2 days.
Oh, 2 days. Okay, great. So I guess I'll be starting sooner than I thought.
So let's close the door and finish walk around.
Okay.
Do some other.
Sorry, I can ramble all day about this. I'm pretty excited.
The fact that we have no windows, right?
Yeah, there's no windows, so we're stealth. And we talked about that a lot because you can put windows here, you can put windows all the way along here if you like, you can put a window in the door, you can put windows on the other side. There's a lot of things you can do, but we don't think we want to do that simply because we don't want to give away that this is a house. Because it allows us to go places and stay places that you're not going to get away with doing if you had something that looked like a house and people were living in it. So we got some nice big barn doors, and they swing open really nice and wide. So you got a lot of clearance. I think they said it's 270-degree swing.
Is that all the way? Yeah, they go more all the way.
Guess they go all the way.
Yes.
Okay. So again, another way in and out of the vehicle. If you're familiar with some of the designs they do, they may put in a set of benches that drops down and turns into a bed. A lot of times they put a nice big platform bed in here, so there's lots of room underneath, what they call those a garage, which I think that's the direction we're going to go, because that gives us maximum use of the space. If you've got benches in here, then you lose the storage area right here, and we have a lot of gear that we want to be able to bring along throughout the seasons for our different adventures, and so that gives us all the space we need to be able to pull that off. It already has a hitch on it, which it came from the factory. It's a class 4 receiver hitch. It's pre-wired for hookups. This is a 3/4 ton platform if you're familiar with vehicles, and so as a 2500 or a 3/4 ton, it has the ability to carry quite a payload, and it also has the ability to pull a pretty good payload. You can pull quite a bit behind this. Not that we're necessarily going to do that, but that gives us a little more.
Wanted the option.
Yeah, because we may pull a toy trailer, with a motorcycle or, just different things. The other thing you can do is they make a variety of accessory type platforms that you can slide into this receiver. So one thing we talked about was having a motorcycle with us, and they make these carrying trays that slide into the receiver so we can put a bike on here. Sometimes they just make a big storage tray out here so you can set things out here that you don't want to keep in the van or don't have room for. So there's a lot of possibility there for doing a variety of things, and you can change that in and out as it suits you to your adventure. So got a step over here, which is nice because this is pretty tall to get up in and out of, and we'll probably have to get some handles in here because otherwise it's, got to do that to get up in here. And it already has some lights in here. There's a switch right here that operates 4 different lights, and I don't know if they'll even show up in the camera. I don't know if you can see those or not, but there's one right here.
Oh yeah.
There's one here, here, and over this door. And when you shut this with no windows, it's dark in here even in the middle of the day. I did it the other day on accident. I just kind of shut the door without thinking about it. Then I couldn't see where I was going. And I couldn't find the door handle because it was pitch dark. And so the best thing to do if you're going to do that is to come in from this door, because the switch for these lights is right up here. So as you climb up in, you can turn that on. And then if you shut the doors, you can see where you're going.
Probably take all those out and redo it anyway, but.
Yeah, we may redesign the layout of those. There's a backup camera right here. And right now, because the middle mirror inside the cab isn't doing me any good because I don't have windows, the mirror actually has a camera in the mirror itself, so when you hit reverse, the camera engages and you can see what's behind you as you go to back up, which is very handy because this is a very long van, and you a lot of blind spot with it just trying to use the side mirrors and not being able to see back here, so that's a really handy component.
So I think we should go do a tour of the front of the van and show them why we didn't get certain things.
Sure. So let's talk a little bit about the cab up here. Pretty comfortable seats. Like I said, I immediately upon taking possession of the van, I drove it clear across the state, which was about a 600-mile drive. all day sitting in this seat, and so it was really nice and comfortable, very ergonomic. And again, I'm a big guy, so I don't always fit in things very well, but this actually worked out real good. It slides back and forth. I think I've got it all the way back, at least as far back as the bulkhead allows me to right now. I don't know if it'll go farther when we get it out of there, but really nicely designed interior. I'm really impressed with Mercedes product. They've got a lot of the controls are right up here on the steering wheel, so your cruise control and your instrument display. Down here, I don't even know what all this does yet, but I've been watching. There's a light up display right here, and it tells me tons of stuff. One of the things that it does is Mercedes is very famous for having a lot of sensors on their vehicles that can self-diagnose all the different things that are going on. So a common thing with a lot of vehicles right now is that if you got low pressure in your tires, it tells you. But this thing will tell you when the lights are out and which one. It tells me my fuel mileage. It tells me, so if I'm going down the road, I know how much fuel I have, but it also tells me at the speed and type of driving style that I'm going, how many miles per gallon I'm getting right now, which is kind of cool because that makes you kind of go lay off the lead foot a little bit. Because this is a Gen 3, it has the new smog controls on diesels, so there's a diesel exhaust fluid that has to be injected into the exhaust as it goes out in order to clean it up for tighter emissions. And so there's a 4.8 gallon tank underneath the hood here, and that'll last roughly 10,000 miles. But I have another, basically like a little fuel gauge monitor on my display that lets me know how much of that is left, and so I can stay aware of that as well. So it's kind of nice. Paddle shifters on the back, very race car, I mean, that's the big shiz-nizzle there. And climate control over here, heating and air conditioning. It's push button start, so it's just a key fob with a sensor in it, so it's a proximity thing. Very quiet. When you're driving in the vehicle, you don't hear the engine. The engine, I mean, I have a big diesel Ford truck, and you can hear that thing, and there's quite a bit of cab noise because of that great big engine, but this thing's really quiet. It's almost just kind of purring like a kitten out there, and it's pretty cool. So there's lots of storage space in here. We got all these cup holders. There's little cubbies here. Now we chose not to get the radio that comes from the factory. That saved us about $1,600 or $1,700. We decided we want to put our own in because there are some things that we would like to have on the radio, and it'll be probably a lot less expensive
and a lot nicer.
And yeah, than what the factory radio is going to be. So we were going to go ahead and just put our own in.
Cubbies up there.
Yeah, we just discovered these. We didn't even know these existed until earlier, but there's all these little storage compartments up in the dash because we don't have like a glove compartment like you normally see, and so we were kind of like, oh, okay. And Anissa just happened to just go, what's that? And push the button and it popped up, and
pretty big.
There's a lot of room up there. Another little cup holder, a couple cup holders up here. Pretty neat. There's additional storage above the visors. So here's our visor, and then up here is this big space up here that you can put things in. It's pretty good space on each side. So you got a lot of room for goodies to sit and ride up there.
Kind of dark up there. It's kind of hard to see.
Yeah. A couple grab handles, which I don't think Anissa can reach because it's pretty tall to get up in here. I can grab it, but they're clear up here. And they kind of help you hike up in here because it is a bit of a climb.
There's more cubbies down below.
There's a space there.
And in both of the doors, there's several.
Yeah, there's a lot of space, a lot of storage space, so it's pretty neat. We're just excited about what we're getting out of the deal.
The O2 package that was added to it that with the driver's assistant stuff, that's kind of awesome.
Oh yeah. So there's some really cool technology built into this. One of the things is this thing called Crosswind. I'm trying to remember. It's Crosswind Assist, I think is what it's called. Mm-hmm. So what it does is, this is a big box, and it catches the wind. And I found that out coming back because we went through a pretty windy area that we took our route home in. And so as the wind hits it, it adjusts and senses the wind, and then it brakes the right wheels in order to compensate for that push so that you're not feeling as much of that push, and it makes it a lot easier to drive because, again, it's
been huge.
It's a big box. and so it definitely catches the wind. You're not, you know, you're not as aerodynamic as you would be in a smaller, shorter vehicle. So that was definitely
huge.
a big deal. So the other thing is of course it has power mirrors. They're heated. They fold up if you push the button. But what was also really neat is it's got this red triangle sensor, and this is in other vehicles too. But it lets me know not only that there's a vehicle over there, but if I go to change a lane and there's a vehicle over there, and there's a blind spot, it will tone. There's a bell that rings and lets me know, and then the red triangle lights up as well on either side of the vehicle.
And it'll flash. It's called blind spot and driver assist.
Yeah, so really nice because again, long vehicle, and you know you can see pretty well, but there is a spot alongside here where you can't necessarily catch a vehicle coming alongside of you, and so it makes you aware of it every time. As you're driving down the road, the light lights up as long as there's a vehicle going by you, but if you try to change lanes, and it rings and it flashes and make sure you don't come over on top of somebody.
So let's show the cool compartments under the seats.
Okay, so the seats sit on this big platform, and so under the seats there's a space in there, but in this side of the vehicle, on the driver's side, we got a big fuse panel sitting in here, and there's a lot of empty spaces, so there's plenty more room for additional electronics as we hook them up. On the other side, on the passenger side, there's no fuse box, but there's a really nice big cubby hole right there that you can put things in, so there's a fair amount of storage, as long as it'll fit through that hatch. So again, a lot more storage space. So there's a ton of storage just up here in the cab, which is really nice.
So I know you're saving the best part for last, right?
Right.
Under the hood.
Let's go look under the hood. Okay, let's take a look under the hood. This thing has got this 3-liter V6 turbo diesel, and it's got a lot of power. I mean, I wouldn't have bought this thing if it was a dog. And I drove several of these at several different dealerships, because every time I go to look at them, of course, they want you to hop in and take a spin. And the first time I went down, the salesman, I came right out of the dealership, and they're right on the freeway, so you swing right up onto the ramp and beat it up onto the freeway. And he said, well, here's what I want you to do. Stick your foot on it and don't let it up, because he wanted me to see just how stable this is going through the curves and going down a ramp. And so I stuck my foot in it. This thing got up to speed before halfway down the ramp. I was already doing 70 plus miles an hour, and it was a real big steep curve coming down like that. Felt like I was driving my car. There wasn't any of this big, you know, funny feeling topsy-turvy business. They really designed this thing in the suspension. It just feels like you're driving a car instead of a big box. So this thing's really nice. Again, turbo diesel, got a lot of power in it. I didn't have any problem staying up in traffic on the freeway, passing vehicles, whatever I wanted to do. Surprisingly compact. It's just sitting right there in the middle of this box. There's all kinds of space over here. This is the air for the cab coming in right through here, going up into the cab. This is the air filter for the engine itself, sitting above the turbo back there. And there's just a lot of room left over in here. You'd think it'd be just crammed full. I mean, other vehicles I've had, there's no space. You could almost get up in here and eat lunch. So nice big, huge wiper reservoir right here. I mean, I'm sure that's at least a gallon or better. The little burp tank for the radiator sits right here. Check your oil right here. So there's a lot of, it's very convenient. I mean, they really designed this out. The German engineering on Mercedes always impresses me because they just think things out. I've always been impressed with them. The DEF fluid, which is what they call it DEF, D-E-F, it's diesel exhaust fluid, goes in right here, and there's a tank that you can't see, but it's back up underneath here, but it's about just shy of 5 gallons of fluid reservoir there, which will make you, take you a long ways. When I first heard about having to have DEF fluid in the new diesels a few years ago, I kind of thought, that's a bunch of crap. Why you have to deal with that? And it always had these ideas that, you're going to run out. I've heard people had to go into limp mode and can't start their vehicles, and they get stuck until they, because they ran out of fluid. Well, you'd have to not be paying attention to run out of fluid on this thing. It lets you know. It's got a monitor. It gives you warnings. There's no reason to run out of fluid unless you just flat don't pay any attention. So not an issue like I thought it was going to be. Anyway, it also, because this is the 3rd generation of these now, they coupled this with a 7-speed transmission like a lot of their performance cars are in, which makes this thing a lot smoother shifting and going down the road. You don't get that, you know, like a lot of the older vehicles with the 3-speed trannies, you get that big thunk, thunk, thunk as you're going. This, you don't even feel it. It's just a really nice smooth ride. Again, big boxy van, drives like a car, really nice. So
inside the cab, the engine's so quiet.
yeah, you can't, this thing, even sitting at a stop, you just hear this kind of a little bit of a purr outside. You don't really, I mean, whatever they did to contain the engine noise, and actually it's just not a loud vehicle. I mean, I've been out here with it running, standing out here, and it's not loud. I mean, it's just the way they designed it, I guess. So it's pretty impressive. I mean, I'm just gushing over the thing. You can tell I'm like a little kid with a new toy, and that's what I am, a kid with a new toy. So anyway, easy to get into here. There's no maintenance, not even an oil change for the first 20,000 miles or 1 year, whichever comes first. So you drive off the showroom and you just keep going. I mean, 20,000 miles, but for the first oil change, that's incredible. And I even did a little more digging on that and asked about break-in periods and really was like, are you serious? You just, I mean, used to be you drove it for 1,000 miles, changed the oil and checked all this stuff. The way they've designed these, they just go. And that's just more of that ease of you know, maintenance and just, you know, you don't have to worry about horsing around under the hood. You just drive and have fun. And so that's been a really big reason why we bought this vehicle. Again, another plus in my opinion. So there you have it. This is the blank canvas. This is where we're starting. Do a little walk around here. 16-inch tires, big, aggressive, go out in the dirt. Nice big sliding door, lots of accessibility to get in and out. Back doors that open wide so you don't have any constraints there. Nice and tall, I can stand up in it. Lots of room, nice and wide. Plenty of room to get in there and do what we want to do and have comfort, luxury, and economy. What's not to like? So we're excited to take you on the tour. We've got some components already coming in, and we're going to start the process. One of the first things we need to do is a thing called rattle trap. Again, a big panel van, got a lot of potential road noise and echoing in there because there is nothing in there right now. So we use this product called Rattle Trap that we're going to put in there, and that's going to quiet it down considerably before we do the installation. So we'll be showing you more about that when we start that part of the project. But
we're going to do everything step by step.
Yeah, step by step, total reveal, and we'll call it good on this video.
Sure to subscribe.
Make sure you subscribe, thumbs up.
Be cool.
Ring the bell, stay tuned, see you on the next video.